Hello, Andrew. Nice to have you today. Nice to talk to you today.
Indeed, and great to have you on the call. Perhaps I'll introduce myself to the listeners and viewers. I'm Andrew Knight from RICS. I've been with RICS for nearly 12 years now, actually, losing count. And I sit within the standards, regulatory and thought leadership part of the organisation. And my role is to look at the whole impact of data and technology right across the built and natural environment. And with over 110,000 members qualified, working across the globe, working right across the whole property and land life cycle, all the way through land and acquisition, development, construction, valuation, brokerage, finance of real estate, operations, property management, and indeed end of life. Obviously, data and technology has a huge impact and a huge positive impact on the way our profession works. And indeed, our profession also works right across those different asset types: land itself, residential, commercial in all its forms, alternative assets and infrastructure. So clearly a very wide-ranging area in which data and tech is having a huge positive impact on the profession. And obviously it's great to talk to you, Elia and Ross today. So it'd be great to perhaps hear a bit from both of you in terms of your backgrounds and the kind of origin story of KOSMOS.
Sure. Yes, I've invited Ross Griffin here. Ross?
Will I give a bit of introduction? So, my name is Ross Griffin, Andrew, and I'm originally from Ireland, but I've spent the last decade on and off here in Denmark. By profession, I'm a quantity surveyor cost manager. I have 10 plus years experience on the client side, 10 plus years experience on the contractor side, both in pre-construction and the execution phase. So quite kind of a broad knowledge base on the construction industry, but especially the commercial aspect of it. I won't go into KOSMOS. I think, Elia, you should introduce that and yourself, so I'll let you add it.
And I'm Elia González. I'm Spanish, but have been working in Denmark for the last number of years. I started working in the public sector in Spain, and when I moved to Denmark, I shifted my career into the cost management portion of the construction, and had to adjust what I had learned by education and profession to the digital advanced stage of the industry here. That's when I actually discovered my interest around data. Reason being, I was struggling with managing that data, so I actually started understanding a little better data structures and all the digital aspects of how to improve and automate our processes. And I think that's where I am now. I'm not sure if you can define that as a career or a profession more than inventing it and naming it Digital Quantity Surveying, which I think it is what it is at the moment. And we both founded the KOSMOS a few years ago. It's a Danish and Irish company at the moment, and we have focused precisely on trying to bring this professionalism to the industry, the digital management of projects from a cost perspective.
Well, that's great to hear. And I'm always very, very cheered when I talk to our tech partners and see that not only have they built technical expertise, but they've got that deep understanding of the practice area that they've been working in as well. Because, technology is not there as an end in itself. It's there to support the profession, make it more productive, deliver better services to clients. So it's great to hear that. Now, I think we're obviously here to kind of talk about how surveyors work in a digital environment, and particularly obviously quantity surveyors, cost engineers, depending on the kind of jurisdiction you're working in how they're described. And I think it'd be great to get your views, both of you, on how you see quantity surveyors working in this increasingly digital world. I mean, I'm old enough to remember two-dimensional drawings, CAD, AutoCAD, back in the 80s when people began to start actually having that kind of digital ability to draft. But obviously things have moved on hugely. And how do you see that relationship between the digital world and the world of quantity surveying?
Yeah, now you mentioned drawings. We like to refer to that as work on a screen, but not necessarily on a digitalized aspect, right? One thing is just to work with the technology, and another thing is to embrace it and actually fit it, if that makes sense.
I'd like to, you were mentioning AutoCAD and 2D, and I was going to say, Andrew, can you explain that to us, please? Because I don't understand what you're talking about. But no, the joke, of course. From a QS perspective, we have this value saying, I guess, within KOSMOS, and it's value-driven cost management. And ideally speaking, from a quantity surveyor cost management's perspective, we are the user of and collector of information and data from the other stakeholders within a project lifecycle delivery. And we always have been. Nothing has changed here. We have always taken the information from the architects and the engineers and developed and collected that information and structured it in a commercial sense in order to be able to procure a project and manage the contract during the execution. So nothing has changed in terms of that process. What has changed is how information today is developed and delivered to us as the digital cost manager, digital quantity surveyor. And this is what we think is the absolute future for our profession.
Another change is how much we have, or the opportunity that we have at the moment to actually automate much more of that process, so that the information that comes to us, it comes in a format that can be used either straight away or in a much faster way, so we can invest the time rather on those tedious and manual and time-consuming tasks, but actually into really understanding and providing value to the project.
And I would say if we reflect back to the days of AutoCAD and 2D, Andrew, the quantity surveying is process of creating a cost estimate or cost plan or a bill of quantities was very much about taking the information once it is prepared and delivered by the design team and interpreting the information so that you as a quantity surveyor could create your documentation and deliver your value. But today that is absolutely not the case anymore. We cannot sit and receive information without, first of all, being involved in the creation of that information. And what I mean by that is the architects and engineers are valued professionals create the geometries within a digital environment. And we as cost managers now take that information. We don't measure the geometries anymore. It's a byproduct of what the architect and engineers do. So effectively, the architects and engineers are quantifying for us. We talked a few months back about the debt of quantity surveying, not as a profession, I need to add, but as a task. We don't quantify anymore, do we? In a general sense, we will always need to do some type of manual quantification, I would say. But in a general sense, the 80-20 rule, 80% of the information in 20% of the elements gives us what we need quickly. So again, we're now changing how we engage and interact with our fellow stakeholders, and that is something that I think as quantity surveyors we really need to get out into the market and understand.
And it is in a way expected, isn't it? Like in today's lifestyle, we are used to immediate everything. Like we have immediate phone calls rather than what it used to be. We have washing machines, we have fast speed trains, fast speed internet. We are claiming and we are expecting immediate everything. And this, I think, is also how the clients are changing their requirements on projects. They expect it to be immediate and definitely proactive rather than passive or reactive. So if you tell the clients that they have already like a full design project and tell them, well, you are over budget, then we now understand that that's actually wrong, like not ideal advice. The ideal advice is to actually warn them, predict that. And the only way to do that is actually be proactive. You cannot do that with the old school or old times traditional conventional processes, because you will be relying on other on deliveries from the project. You really need to be involved in the process. together with the producers of the information, them being design teams or procurement teams or any other stakeholder involved in the project producing information, to actually catch and be able to analyze that information and advise proactively to the client from a commercial cost perspective.
Exactly.
So, I mean, what you're describing is almost, and it's perhaps an overused and sometimes misunderstood term, is this sense of real time, that actually everything is happening in that real time sense,
Indeed,
that there's no disconnection.
That's...
And I guess it'd be interesting for you to help perhaps our listeners understand perhaps what is commonly used, but these terms of 3D, 4D, 5D, BIM, and indeed also the common data environment, because it's that, I think, as you said, Ross, that multiple stakeholders sharing information in a way that's connected, that means that these decisions don't come as a surprise, or these reports don't come as a surprise. So perhaps if you could define for us where you see BIM at the moment in terms of that evolution to 3, 4, 5D and beyond, and also how common data environments are part of that story in terms of the process and the ability to share data.
Yes, so BIM being the process, building information management, has been sectorized into different dimensions. Now, these dimensions are referring to the specific or specialized information that is produced in each of them. So 3D will be the volumes, the geometries. 4D will be the time information produced for the project. 5D will be the cost. 6D, sustainability, etc., etc. Now, these dimensions fit into the BIM strategies, and they will feed their information into the common data environment. So we need to understand that now all these dimensions are interconnected, meaning the information produced on all these specialized professions is interconnected. We often see that the dimensions, because they are numerical, they are represented or understood as a sequence, where you cannot do 4D unless you have 3D, and you cannot do 3D unless you have 2D, and you cannot do cost 5D unless you have 4D or 3D. Now, this is a misconception that actually, if you reflect back and think, when does my project have cost information? Well, very, very, very early, as soon as there is a budget set up. That is information on the project that constitutes 5D, and that is already being information that should be aligned or connected in the data, in the common data environment, as it will need to be produced in a way that will be interconnected. At that stage, you should have a BIM execution plan or some guidelines and some requirements as per how all this information is to be produced. So I think that we are at different stages on development on the different dimensions for many reasons, but understanding that all these dimensions are parallel, and that whenever there is a change in any of them, there is a change on the details in the 2D, in the schedule of equipment in the 2D, there is a change in the geometry in the 3D, or a change in time, because your procurement strategy has been changed, therefore there is an impact in time, there is as well an impact in cost. So I think that we should not wait till all these other disciplines or these other specialized professions have mastered and developed their full strategies and procedures and design information for the cost managers to actually be involved in the digital or common data environment.
I would say that the dimensions are mutually inclusive. One affects the other. And I think the original principles around building information modeling or building information management was supplementing the 3D geometry with time, with cost, and embedding it within one kind of federated model. But the reality of how we work as stakeholders and disciplines doesn't really allow for that. Embedding cost within the 3D model environment doesn't give you any additional values, because, as we mentioned earlier on, cost structures are very important to the quantity surveying profession. Cost structures so that we can benchmark and code or benchmark and estimate in early stages and collect data in that structured way, embedding into the model and working within a singular platform to drive all dimensions. It just isn't possible in our opinion.
And also because, well, if you are limiting your cost information to whatever is available on the 3D geometries, you will be leaving aside so many other costs. So, for example, when we are, as I said, we as cost managers, we will be looking at information in all dimensions. So we are also looking at procurement strategies. We will be looking at time. We will be looking at 2D details, descriptions, and 3D. Now, if we are to estimate, we will take into account all these pieces of information from the common data environment to create our cost estimate or our, delivery for the project. If we are to limit our cost information only to what is available in only one dimension, then that will be only a portion of the project.
Exactly. And we did some analysis on this actually, Andrew, when we looked at a project and the level of information received from the 3D model and the value of that information.
Monetary value,
when analysed in the bill of quantities. Actually, when looking at the building itself as an isolated direct deliverable, we model only about 70% of the value, or maybe very good projects will model about 80% of the value. But that's the direct building costs. If we looked at the entire project as a CapEx delivery, we only model in terms of 3D around 40% of the entire value. So we're driving this type of narrative saying that, BIM is 3D. It's not. It's information. And actually what we get from a 3D environment is actually only a fraction of what the entire project value is for a potential client or investor. So 5D information suddenly becomes, in our opinion, extremely valuable if structured, if collected, and if analyzed.
And that is, of course, without looking at the entire life cycle.
Yeah,
of the project, that's only CapEx.
Yeah. We could get into a whole other remit of discussion here in operational life cycle and end of life and so on and so forth.
Maybe that's one for another day.
Yeah.
But I suppose that point does reinforce the fact that this is more about a broader common data environment than everything relying on a geometric model of the asset that, as you said, only actually captures a percentage of the costs and is only part of that common data environment. I think you joked earlier, Ross, about the sort of the death of the profession in a non-serious way. But I suppose it is worth perhaps on a closing discussion point thinking about how does software fit in overall within this role, this area of practice, because clearly technology is not an end in itself, it's a tool, and in so many areas where technology is deployed, the power of it is to augment and support human beings, not replace them. So how do you see that kind of relationship evolving and developing between quantity surveyors, cost engineers, and the technology that they now have that they can use?
The role and the profession is evolving. What we did 10 years ago in terms of quantity surveying as a traditional practice is now changing. We cannot do and deliver the same professional, the same professional consultancy to our clients that we did 10 years ago in the same way, because now everything has shifted. It's more about information management and standardization and analytics from our perspective in terms of cost management and quantity surveying. And it's about information, getting the best out of the information that you develop within a project. And it takes a little bit of a kind of a step back from the profession and an umbrella or helicopter view of it and look at, really, are we really working smart? Are we really working smart as quantity surveyors today? I'll give you a little example. Do we really need quantity surveyors sitting on the construction site managing, monthly payments, can we automate that? Is there a technology that will allow us to automate that? And if so, how do we assure that that happens on our projects? Because one of the challenges, Andrew, today for our specialization or discipline is that we do not have enough quantity surveyors for the global market, because they're not produced in every country. So we need to become more smart as companies, as institutions like the RICS, as universities, and really consider what is the quantity surveyor in the future. And of course, technology comes into that.
And challenge efficiency, right? Challenge efficiency and try to put a solution to the lack of efficiency in our processes, actually by being supported by tools. These tools being softwares and technologies that are available. Now, the technology and the software is not going to do the job for us. We still need to be experts or specialists and professionals on what we do, but also be open-minded to actually try to optimize that by using software technology of any kind as a tool.
It's an enabler for us to get the best out of our knowledge and experience. And cost management or quantity surveying in terms of that specialization of commercial and contractual and risk overview, that's not going anywhere. It might become more automated, meaning that we might not need as many resources on projects because we will automate a lot of it. It will also mean by using technology and data, we will become an awful lot more accurate in how we develop our business cases, our risk profiles, and our strategies for delivering projects, because we will be using historical data to benchmark against, but also perhaps we begin to use AI and machine learning to predict what our projects will be in the future for us.
And for companies that are actually realizing of this and taking action and defining their digital strategies in the company because they really want to provide a digital service, I would also say that it's not about defining which software your team is going to use. It's about much more than that. It's about understanding this process, understanding the requirements and what will be the delivery, and train or try to change the mindset of your entire team, because it's not just providing them with the tool. It's not just providing them with the license for the software to use. It is about much more that needs to take place. And that's not a quick thing. It's not just installing the software and then really we are all digital. It takes time and it needs to be embraced.
Indeed, you say as much digitization is about human beings as it is technology, isn't it, in terms of changes of behavior and the way people work.
Yes.
It is how to use correctly something, right? You may get a wheel and actually use it as a paper holder, right? Like it is about how to use it on the best way and proper way.
Well, it's been fascinating to talk today, Elia and Ross. Thanks so much for your input and an incredibly interesting discussion today. And I look forward to speaking again in the future.
Yeah.
Excellent. Cheers, Andrew. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Bye.
Bye.
Thanks very much for listening. There's a LinkedIn link below in the show notes. We would love to connect with you.
We hope you enjoyed it and have you with us in the next one. Thank you very much.